looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Hyundai Elantra. Now this is the hybrid version of the vehicle. If you want to walk through on a different version or on the infotainment, you'll find that down in the description of this video. Now there are two different versions of this screen that are available, so it's the same size technically, it's just that this one has some more customization options that you won't find in some of the lower trim levels of the ride. But I'll point those out as we dive in. So first thing I'm going to point out is that the steering wheel inside of the ride might be heated. If you've got the heated button, just down by your right knee there under the climate control settings, you've got a single level that's available. And then you've got a manual telescoping steering wheel across the lineup. There's a release. You're just going to go in and out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you do, you're going to click it and lock it back into place. Just down by your left knee, you've got a few different buttons that are available. So this one gives you the option of increasing or decreasing the brightness of the cluster screen. If your 12-volt battery is giving you problems, what it's going to do is re-engage that battery. And then you've also got your traction control system. So the only time you really want to toggle that one off is if you're running into slippery, snowy conditions, etc. But outside of that, leave that one turned on. And then there are so many different buttons in stock. So let's start off with the left-hand side. So you've got your stick along the left side, obviously for your blinkers there, and then flashing your high beams out. Now with your light modes, you've got a series of different modes that are available. You're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time, but auto mode during the daytime, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. You go into this auto headlamp mode. So what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. If you want to permanently lock your high beams out, go into the upper headlamp mode. You can then push away, pull towards you in order to turn them off. It's just that in the auto mode, pushing away puts you into the auto headlamp mode. At nighttime, if you wanted to lock them on, push away again in order to permanently lock your high beams on. Then you've got so many different buttons. So the ones along the left side here, you've got a voice command prompt. You'd be able to do things like change songs. Hold on, push that again just so you can see some options because there are so many things. So you could navigate using your voice. There are different vehicle controls, so you can control the climate using your voice. You can set different climate temperatures, fan speed, etc. Toggle the heated steering wheel on or off, turn on the seat warmers, and so many things. So what I'd recommend when you first get into your Elantra, go through this setting and really get the hang of it because it's great. And then if you've got a phone connected, so Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc., if you do a long push and hold, that is going to bring up your phone assistant. So that's either going to bring up Siri or Google. You've got your volume rocker this way, so you can move up or down, push in the middle in order to mute. You've also got your volume rocker down the middle there. You can answer or hang up on a phone call. And then you've got a few other buttons here. So this one is going to let you go between all of your presets. So if you've got that set up, you can see that moving in there. If you take that same button, if you push and hold it, that is going to act as a seek button. So if we're down that way, you've got to be pretty quick on the draw. But if you don't have your preset set up, just use the voice command prompt to change stations. And then you've got two custom buttons there. Actually, hold on, the vehicle just turned on. So if we go into this screen for a second, you can see, yeah, there we go. It's trying to charge up right now. Neat view, but squirrel. But we've got two different custom buttons there. So your mode button and then a selector button. So inside of the infotainment, if you go into your setup, you've got all of your buttons. So there are technically three. You've got your button down there, and then the two on the steering wheel. So what does your custom button there do? So navigating through your custom steering wheel button, you can have it go to the hybrid mode, do nothing, rejecting calls, go to the home screen, etc. So if I say hybrid, I push this button now, it brings me into the available hybrid screen. So pretty simple. And then you've also got your additional button there, and that's the mode selector. So what sources do you tend to listen to? Because now if we take that button, if we push it, it's going to jump you between all of the selected sources that you've done. And then you saw your up and down switch along the steering wheel there earlier. So this one there. And then you've got your stick along the right-hand side, and it's going to be for your wipers. So just up there, if you go down a single level, that puts you into the intermittent level, which means you can then use the rocker switch in the middle to figure out how fast or slow rain's hitting the windshield, and then go up to your crazy, or sorry, down to your crazy modes. Then you can pull in towards you in order to get that wiper fluid going. The pad along this side, so these buttons are going to control what's going on inside of that cluster screen, which we'll touch on in a minute. But then you've got cruise control here too. So there's only a single type of, well, technically there are two different types. If you've got a manual transmission in the Elantra, it's going to be old school regular cruise, but inside of the majority of Elantras, it's going to be the smart cruise control system. So it's an adaptive cruise. It's your set it and forget it. So let's say if you set it at 80, the car in front of you slows down, yours will also brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it's going to pick you back up to your set speed. But to use the system is simple. You toggle it on this way, it's not going to work because I'm currently parked, so you have to be actively driving. You push that and it's going to set it at your current speed. You then increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, push and hold up or push and hold down to increase at larger increments or decrease at larger increments. There's a distance indicator, so it's how close or far are you from the leading vehicle with 4 unique options. So think of that like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi for how close or far you are away from that leading vehicle. And inside of your vehicle settings there, not pushing it, I guess that helps if I do, driving convenience, smart cruise control. That's going to let you adjust out the distance. So you can adjust your distance this way or through the main mode there. And then how fast or slow do you want your vehicle to react? So do you want it to accelerate faster, slower, etc.? And then your reactions or the reaction speed for the smart cruise control system. Pretty simple. And then you've got this button. So there are 2 different types of lane keeping systems inside of Hyundai vehicles. The first one is going to be a lane keep assist. So if you take that button, if you push and hold it, you can see there that icon disappears. So that one there, what that does, if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it's going to nudge you back into the lane that you were in. Versus if you just tap the button, it's going to be a lane follow assist. So the car is not self-driving, but if you're not paying attention, your hands are off the steering wheel, it can actually follow the lane for you perfectly. Very little user input is required. In my experience, you can keep your hands off the steering wheel for about 30 seconds or so before it makes you put your hands back on the wheel again. So the vehicle is not self-driving, but when you use the smart cruise control system with the lane follow assist, it gets very, very close. But if you want to see a live demonstration of actually using this system, you'll find it down in the description of this video. Then inside of the cluster screen, you've got so many different options. So along the left-hand side is going to be your speedometer along with your current fuel level, done 2 different ways. So you've got different gauge views there, your current outside temperature. Since this is the hybrid, we know that we're good, ready to drive. And then you've got your fuel economy level there. It's currently at 0. So if we go down a level, you can see there's a tiny little notch. And that essentially lets me know that I'm at 5.4 liters per 100. So that's essentially going to be your fuel economy level there, just shown slightly differently. You've got your drive mode that you're currently in. So down by your right knee, there's a button there. You can change between all of the different drive modes. And you see there, so it customizes the look. So inside of the infotainment system, if you go into your setup, screen layout or display, you're going to go to, look at that, your cube or classic view. So cube view gives you this funky little look. I'm not crazy about that one, so you could either link it to your drive mode. So then as you adjust out your drive mode there, it's going to change up the look for you, or you can permanently lock it out to one of the other modes. So let's say if you love the fuel economy you get in the smart mode, but you love the look of the sport mode there, you could adjust that out. And then you've got your current odometer along the bottom. Top side is the current gear that you're in. So park, reverse, neutral, drive, push over for your sport mode. And then you can move between all of your available gears that way too. If you've never used your hand shifter before for that manual mode or paddle shifters, you'll find a walkthrough on how it's done down in the description. You've got a series of different page buttons that are available there too. So as you hit the page icon, that jumps you between some different options. We'll dive into that in a second. And then you've got your gauge here. So I want you to think of this view if it's not a regular speedometer view. So you've got your speedometer view there, but in this view, this is your hybrid gauge. So if you were to put your foot down, you're using it power, so it's going to go up this way. Think of that like your traditional tachometer. And then as you go to brake, it's regenerative braking in order to try to charge the battery up. So it's going to drop down this way. And you've got your battery gauge there for the hybrid component side of things. So it charges up a few different ways through regenerative braking. And then as you drive, the motor is going to turn on in order to try to keep that battery charged up. But it leads to pretty good fuel economy when you've got them both going and you're just cruising. And then hitting the pages button, so you saw there, jumps us between different things. If you are on this screen, you push and hold OK, that's going to dive you into a boatload of available settings inside of the infotainment system. But you'll find a full walkthrough in the infotainment down in the description. Hitting here gets you a few different options for your fuel economy. And then you've got different modes there. So your current trip is your last ignition cycle. So when the vehicle was last turned on, that's how far you've gotten. Since refueling is since you've filled up the vehicle, and then since reset. So that's essentially like a master reset. You can see here, it says hold OK on some of these in order to be able to reset. So all you do, take that button to go up and down, push and hold it, and that zeroes you out. From there, you've got your little idle mode. So when you're going to notice as you drive that the engine is going to come on and you're going to see a line shooting across, it's going to be charging up that battery. And you can see your battery charge level there and there. And then you've got your current vehicle speed. Hitting again gets you a little compass view. Now, if you've got factory navigation inside of your Elantra, you will notice that you've got the option of seeing a little map and cluster view. It's not going to be, hold on, I'll show you here. It's not full map and cluster, but you've at least got your turn-by-turn directions, which is kind of cool. And then up and down gives you turn-by-turn directions versus how far you are away from that end destination. That's strictly going to be for factory navigation. So if you don't have factory nav inside of your ride, if you're just running off of Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's not going to show those maps inside of the screen. It's just going to be for factory nav. And then one more over gives you your engine temperature or your tire pressure, which you need to be driving in order to see. You do also have the option of adjusting your measurement units. So if we go to your setup and then general, down to units, you can change these out. So do you want to be in either miles or kilometers? This is one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster screen. You could adjust out Celsius Fahrenheit, and it's going to be for your temp down low. In kilometers, you want to be in liters per 100, miles per gallon. If you're in the US, obviously make sure you're US there. And then your tire pressure, do you want to be in PSI, KPA, or bar? And then down low, you've got your hand shifter. So your park, reverse, neutral, drive. Move over to your manual mode. So you can adjust gears out this way if you'd like to. It's great, but it works under the same principles as paddle shifters. So you'll find a walkthrough down below. You've got your parking brake there. So you're going to lift up in order to turn it on. You're going to hit the brake pedal, push down in order to turn it off. And then there's also your auto hold setting. So with this one turned on, if you're in drive, take your foot off the brake, the vehicle is not going to move. So that one's pretty good from a general safety perspective. So I know that's a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Hyundai Elantra.